Imagine spending like 10 agonizing years mastering an incredibly complex skill.
Yeah.
You build your entire professional identity around it, your salary, your social status. Basically, your whole worldview is built on being one of the few people who can perform this highly technical magic trick.
Right.
And then you wake up one morning and you find out a machine can do it in 10 seconds.
It's just
Terrifying.
right. So would you be curious? Or would you be furious? Well, welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
Today, we are looking at the massive, honestly kind of irrational backlash we're seeing right now against AI in the software development world.
It's everywhere.
It really is. And, we aren't talking about like token limits or processor speeds today. We're looking at that through the lens of human psychology and, of all things, an old Orson Welles film.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to understand why these brilliant people are suddenly acting so incredibly defensive. Because it's entirely a defensive reaction. I mean, whenever you see a profound technological shift, and the column that just rewrites the whole economy, you kind of expect a rational debate.
Right. You expect engineers to look at the data.
Exactly. You expect them to weigh the pros and cons. But what we're actually witnessing on message boards and, in comment sections and corporate Slack channels is just an intense emotional meltdown.
Yeah.
And for you listening, understanding the psychology behind this reaction is, well, it's critical. Because this isn't just about software developers.
No, not at all.
Right. It's about a phenomenon that will eventually hit every single knowledge-based profession. And from an economist's perspective, what we're really seeing is the collapse of a human capital asset bubble.
Oh, wow. A human capital asset bubble.
Yeah. I mean, when a skill that took a decade to master is just replicated by an LLM in 10 seconds, that bubble bursts hard.
And that phenomenon actually has a name in the source material we're looking at today. It's called the Amberson Effect. And I want to get straight into this because it just completely reframes everything we are seeing in the tech industry right now. Like, the whole premise is that the vocal pushback against AI coding tools isn't actually about the technology being inherently bad or sloppy.
Right. It's not about the tech at all.
Exactly. It is about profound emotional and economic grief. Like you said, it's the bursting of an asset bubble, but the asset is their own human capital. So
Right.
break down this Amberson analogy for us, because, the historical parallel here is uncanny.
It really is uncanny.
Yeah.
So the concept pulls straight from the 1942 Orson Welles film, The Magnificent Ambersons.
Right.
And in that story, the Amberson family represents like the absolute peak of American aristocracy.
Okay.
And they built their immense fortune and really their entire societal identity on horse-drawn carriages. And, they weren't just slapping wood together in a barn. They were true masters of a highly complex interdisciplinary craft.
Right. Creating a top-tier carriage meant understanding, like, advanced suspension mechanics, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Suspension, intricate woodwork, leather tooling, metallurgy. It took years of dedicated apprenticeship. They were literally the elite class of transportation.
Right. They had an absolute monopoly on the very concept of getting from point A to point B comfortably. And they took immense pride in the difficulty of that craft.
Yeah. And then the automobile arrives.
Boom.
Right. And what's fascinating is how the Ambersons react. You would think, as masters of transportation, they would look at an internal combustion engine with, like, intense curiosity.
You'd think so. You'd think they would ask how they could integrate this new propulsion system into their business model.
Exactly. But instead, their reaction was pure, visceral anger. They looked at early cars, which, let's be fair, were loud. They spit oil. They broke down constantly.
Right. They were a mess.
Yeah, and the Ambersons just declared them to be this vulgar, inferior degradation of a beautiful art form.
This feels exactly like the tradition in darkroom photographers back in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Right. I remember them getting so incredibly angry at early digital cameras because traditional photography was, it was physically demanding.
You had to get your hands dirty.
Literally. You had to mix toxic chemicals. You stood in the dark smelling like stop bath. You had to manually dodge and burn by, like, waving your hands under an enlarger lens.
Right.
The friction of the process was a badge of honor. So when digital allowed anyone to just adjust exposure with a simple slider on a screen, the masters felt robbed.
They felt robbed because of a psychological mechanism called identity fusion.
Okay, what is that?
Well, when your brain wires your entire sense of self-worth to a specific mechanical task, the obsolescence of that task doesn't register as just a mere market shift.
Right.
It registers as a literal existential threat. The human brain, It really struggles to differentiate between my skills are no longer required and my existence is no longer valuable.
Oh, man, that is heavy.
It is. I mean, if you are the best carriage maker in the world or, the best darkroom printer, all those thousands of hours you spent perfecting a physical motion suddenly have zero market value.
So instead of processing that grief, you mask it.
Exactly. You don't walk into a room and say, hey, I am terrified that my skills are useless.
Right. No one says that. You say, your new tool creates inferior art.
Yes, you dress up your existential panic as a technical critique.
Which brings us directly to the modern software developer class.
It really does.
Because, I mean, the last 20 years have essentially been this massive asset bubble of human capital.
Yep, we created an entire class of people who were paid just astronomical salaries, not necessarily because they had the best business ideas, right?
Right.
But because they endured the grueling friction of learning how to speak to machines. They spent a decade mastering unforgiving languages like C++ or Rust.
Oh, yeah, and dealing with the mental tax of, like, debugging memory leaks.
Exactly. Where a single misplaced semicolon could crash a multi-million-dollar server.
Right.
The pain of the syntax was the barrier to entry. It made them wizards.
And now the AI just acts as this universal translator, bypassing that exact barrier entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, I see these massive, like, 2,000-word rants on tech forums from senior developers dissecting an AI-generated application.
Well, they're everywhere.
Right, and they go to great lengths to point out that the AI's code is bloated or that it doesn't understand the nuances of legacy systems.
Or that it's only good for building, like, simple little to-do apps.
Yes. The to-do app insult, always.
Always. And the thing is, they aren't entirely wrong in their narrow technical assessments.
Really?
I mean, yeah, early AI does write bloated code. It does hallucinate. Just like early cars broke down on the side of the road while a horse trotted right past them.
Well, that's a great point.
But the technical arguments they are making are just a smokescreen for that profound grief. When a senior systems engineer complains that an AI doesn't understand real programming, it is literally the digital version of complaining about the smell of the exhaust from a Model T. What they are really saying is, please don't let this be real. Please don't let my 10 years of specialized syntax mastery be commodified.
Please don't let this be real. That completely changes how you read those comment sections.
It does.
But, knowing why they're grieving doesn't stop the technology from advancing.
No, not at all.
If anything, it kind of begs the question, like, if this isn't the death of serious software, what is this technology actually doing to the industry? Because to me, and looking at this through, like, a product management lens, this represents a massive historical reduction in friction.
Okay, let's follow that thought. What do you mean by a reduction in friction in this context?
Well, think about it. Traditional coding was always just a temporary bottleneck in human history.
Right.
Like, think about the mechanics of it. If you were a brilliant logistics manager 5 years ago and you had a perfect mental model for a new supply chain software that could save your company millions, you couldn't just build it.
No, you had to hire a team.
Exactly. You had a massive language barrier. You had to write a design document, go out and hire a team of translators, developers basically, and pay them a fortune to manually translate your human idea into computer syntax.
Right.
The coding itself wasn't the value. The supply chain model was the value. The code was just a hyper-expensive toll booth you had to pass through.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. The friction wasn't the idea. The friction was the translation.
Exactly.
And the Ambersons of software, they view the act of translation, like the literal manual typing of the code, as the holy grail of value.
Right.
But for the rest of society, the value is in the execution of the software. By removing that bottleneck, AI fundamentally democratizes creation.
It's the printing press all over again.
Exactly. Before the printing press, if you wanted a book, you had to hire a scribe.
Right.
And scribes were these highly respected elite professionals who spent their entire lives perfecting calligraphy.
Wow, yeah.
The friction of copying a book by hand meant books were exclusive to royalty and the church.
And when Gutenberg's machine arrived with movable type,
It could do a month's worth of a scribe's work in an hour. And the scribes were furious.
of course they were.
They viewed it as a vulgar dumbing down of the written word. They complained about the cheap paper and the uneven ink.
But society didn't care about the uneven ink. Society viewed it as the dawn of universal literacy and the information age.
Exactly.
The automobile didn't just replace the horse, it completely reshaped cities. It meant average people could travel across a state in a single day, which was something previously reserved for the ultra-wealthy.
Yeah.
And that is what we are seeing with software. AI is not the end of software. It is the end of software being exclusively accessible only to a tiny, gate-kept group of people who spent years learning how to appease a compiler.
And, you know, this brings us to a really uncomfortable reality about democratization.
Okay, well, what's that?
The Ambersons never recovered. Yeah, they lost their fortune, they lost their status, and they faded into complete irrelevance. And crucially, it wasn't because they were wrong about the inherent beauty of horses.
Right. Yeah.
Horses are magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
A handcrafted carriage is a work of art. Their failure was entirely because they confused the direction of travel.
They thought they could convince the world to go backward.
Yes, they honestly believed that if they just argued passionately enough about the superior craftsmanship of their wooden wheels, society would agree and ban the automobile.
That's crazy.
They failed to realize that once society experiences a massive reduction in friction, it never, ever gives it back. The convenience always wins out.
Okay, but let me introduce some friction here myself, actually.
Go for it.
Because this democratization narrative sounds incredibly utopian. Like, we bypass the arrogant developers, anyone can build software, the world is great. But aren't we just trading one massive problem for another?
What do you mean?
Well, if we don't need developers to translate our ideas anymore because the AI does it, we are now entirely reliant on the AI. Yes.
Like, yes, we bypass the gatekeeping developers, but we hand total absolute control over to the massive compute monopolies running the models.
Yeah.
We essentially traded 1,000 independent carriage makers for a single global car factory owned by, like, 3 companies.
And that is the dark side of this transition. It's a completely valid warning from the economist's perspective.
Right.
Democratization of creation does not automatically mean decentralization of power.
Exactly.
Yes, the barrier to entry for an individual to create software has dropped to near zero, but the infrastructure required to maintain that frictionless environment, it's incredibly centralized.
It's massive servers.
Right. You are trading the high labor costs of human developers for the high compute costs of major tech monopolies. It's a structural shift in where the power actually resides.
So the individual gets more creative freedom, but the ecosystem becomes way more consolidated. That is, I mean, that's a terrifying trade-off.
It is terrifying.
Yeah.
But returning to the plight of the individual professional, the reality remains the genie is out of the bottle.
Yeah. Even with the threat of compute monopolies, the fundamental nature of the daily work has changed forever. You cannot fight a structural shift by complaining about the quality of the new tools.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate one more time on behalf of the developers.
Sure.
Because I do genuinely sympathize with them. It is heartbreaking to watch someone's hard-earned skills be commodified like this.
Oh, absolutely.
But wait, don't we still need people who understand how the underlying code actually works?
What do you mean?
Like, if an AI builds a massive enterprise software system and something breaks deep in the architecture, an average person with a good idea isn't going to know how to fix it.
Right.
Surely we still need mechanics, even if everyone can drive a car, right?
Yes. We will absolutely still need mechanics.
Okay.
We will need the AI engineers, deep systems architects, security specialists, and people who actually build and maintain the underlying infrastructure.
Okay, so the profession doesn't disappear.
No, but the sheer volume of the requirement shifts dramatically. You were talking about the difference between a society that needs a few highly specialized mechanics to keep the roads running versus a society where every single person used to have to be a master mechanic just to travel down the road.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the absolute size of the pool of people needed for the mechanic role shrinks dramatically.
Exactly.
The days of needing an army of junior developers just to write boilerplate code and, move buttons around on a web page, those are over.
Completely over.
But the pool of people driving, like the people actually building and deploying solutions, that expands exponentially.
Precisely. The leverage changes. And this is really how you survive the Amberson effect in your own career.
Right.
Like, sympathy for lost expertise is a valid human emotion, totally. But resisting new tools under the guise of protecting real craftsmanship, it ultimately tracks you in an obsolete identity.
Yeah.
If a senior developer spends the next 5 years angrily pointing out the flaws in AI-generated code on Reddit, they are literally just polishing the brass on a sinking ship.
They are acting like the scribe complaining about the printing press while the library gets built right around them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the adaptable developer looks at the AI and says, okay, this machine can write the tedious low-level syntax in 10 seconds. That frees up 90% of my week.
Right.
Now, I can elevate my role. I can design incredibly complex, high-level system architectures that I never had the time or budget to build
Oh,
before.
I love that.
That person utilizes the reduction in friction to benefit their own long-term career. They stop defining themselves by the hammer and start defining themselves by the house they are building.
They ride the wave instead of letting it crash on them.
Exactly.
Because if you cling to the identity of the gatekeeper when the walls have already been torn down by the AI, you just look like someone standing in an empty field demanding a toll.
That is a vivid way to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, the market simply reroutes right around you.
So let's pull all of these threads together because the implications here go way beyond just writing software.
Oh, way beyond.
We've decoded a massive emotional shift happening in real time across the knowledge economy.
Yeah.
We started by looking at what appeared to be rational technical debates about AI capabilities, and we've kind of peeled back the layers to reveal a profound human panic.
It is the fear of identity collapse.
Yeah.
The realization that the market doesn't actually value the 10,000 hours you spent learning a difficult syntax. It only values the output.
Right.
And when a machine can replicate that output without the friction, well, the human capital asset bubble bursts.
And we've seen how this exact same psychological drama has played out throughout history. The carriage makers raging against the automobile,
Yep.
the calligraphers raging against the printing press, the darkroom masters raging against the digital censor. The human instinct is always to attack the new technology as a cheap, vulgar imitation of the craft.
But as we've established, the true value of these technological leaps isn't in replicating the old craft perfectly.
Yeah.
The true value is democratization. The AI acts as a universal translator, completely removing the artificial bottleneck between having an idea and executing that idea.
Yeah.
The friction of creation drops, allowing a massive influx of domain experts to solve their own problems without needing to hire a translator.
And for you listening right now, this is where the theory really has to become practice in your own life.
Absolutely.
You have to actively look out for the Amberson effect in your own industry, in your own office, and critically in your own internal monologues.
Because the automation wave is coming for legal briefs, it's coming for financial modeling, it's coming for medical diagnostics.
It's coming for everything.
Right. When a new tool arrives that automates a task you have historically prided yourself on doing manually, you need to pay very close attention to your first visceral reaction.
Yeah, that's key.
Is it curiosity about how you can leverage it? Or is it anger, carefully disguised as a critique of its quality?
Wow.
Your ability to differentiate between those two reactions will dictate your survival in the next decade.
Because democratization is ultimately a net positive for your career in the long run, provided you adapt to the new reality rather than fighting to keep an obsolete gate closed.
Exactly.
The people who win in this new frictionless era won't be the ones with the most mechanical syntax skills or the deepest knowledge of legacy processes.
No, they won't.
The winners will be the people with the best ideas, who understand how to direct the machines to execute those ideas at scale.
The transition will undoubtedly be painful for the specialists who refuse to evolve past their initial identity fusion.
Right.
But the horizon is incredibly wide open for those who choose to adapt and direct the flow of this new capability.
It really is the end of the gatekeepers and the beginning of the directors.
Well said.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final lingering question to really mull over on your own today.
Okay.
Think about everything we've unpacked about friction, identity, and the direction of travel. Look hard at your own career right now. Are you building the engine of the future, or are you just polishing the spokes of a carriage?